Today, I'm going to start Amar Mar and Mem Amar Aleph right on the top of the page. Yeah, you see that? I think Hashem was able to learn Torah every day. Supposed to have a learning, we should have the base of Migdash immediately. So we're learning for Poor Shlema, for everyone that needs. And, my father and Tali, for Bela and for Yankel. Okay, before we start, to just go over what we learned yesterday. We were learning V'asa lapar kasher asa. Let's take a look at that pasuk. It was Vayikra Daled Chaf. Vayikra Daled. Okay. So the first carbon that was mentioned here was the Par Kayin HaMashiach. It says over here that if the Kayin Mashiach, that means the Kayin Gadol sins, the guilt of the people, he'll bring his sin, Par Ben Bakar Tamim to Hashem as a chatas. He brings it to the entrance of the Oyel Mayed, Lefnei Hashem, he leans on it, and he shechs the par Lefnei Hashem. The Kohen Mashiach takes from the blood, he brings it into the Oyel Mayed. The Taval HaKoyen, it's a spy, but he dips his finger into the blood, he sprinkles it 7 times in front of Hashem on the face of the Pareichas HaKodesh. Notice that it says HaKodesh. Onto the Pareichas HaKodesh, this is the Kohen Gadol. Then he puts the blood on the 4 corners of the Mizbach HaKteres in front of Hashem and the Oyel Mayed. And the rest of the blood he pours on the Yiseda Mizbeach HaOlah, outside on the outer altar. Asher Pesach Oyel Mayed. Base called Chilav Parachatas Yar Menas Achilav Amachasas Aker Vesachilav Sheral Aker Veshtei Akleis Vesachilav Hashem Aleim Salam Asiser Sakavad Al Akleis Yisrael. That means he takes all the fat that covers the innards, the fat that covers the stomach, the 2 kidneys, the fats that's on them, on the ksalim, which I think means the flanks, Yiser Sakavad, which means also the diaphragm, which is on the liver, and on the kidneys, he removes it, as is removed from a Zebach HaShlamim, and he offers it in front of Hashem on the Mizbeach HaOlah. The skin of the cow, of the bull, and all its flesh, he takes it outside and it's burnt in the Al Shefach Hadeshen, the place where the ashes are put, and the Kohen burns it on the fire Al Shefach Hadeshen. Okay, that was the first carbon. That was the Kohen Mashiach.
Is that an unusual or a usual list
of the fats?
Of all those things, yeah, that need to be burned.
What's unusual is that the fats are burned outside the temple instead of on the altar. Not the fats, the flesh is burnt outside the temple, al shefach hadeshen, instead of on the altar, or instead of eaten. What goes on the altar is typical. However, you're going to see that in the next parsha, it's missing out 2 things from this, and we're going to need to learn one from the other. The next parsha talks about not the Kohen Gadol that sins, but the community that sins. It's as if the entire congregation sins. Benelam Davar Mina Kala was concealed from the eyes of the congregation, which means the Sanhedrin. They made a mistake. And they did one of the sins of Hashem that should not be done. And one of the mitzvahs of Hashem that should not be done, and they're guilty. And they know about their guilt that they were guilty of. And the congregation will bring the Par Ben Bakal Achatas, they'll bring it to the entrance of the tent of meeting. The elders will do smicha on it. Did we say smicha before? Yeah. There was the Kohen Gadol, now it's the elders. And they shecht it in front of Hashem. The Kohen HaMashiach brings from the blood. We need a Kohen HaMashiach. Okay, I guess it just means a regular Kohen. No. Anointed priest. It means the Kohen Gadol. Okay. Brings from the blood of the bull to the tent of meeting. The Kohen dips his finger in it 7 times, and he sprinkles 7 times in front of Hashem as Pnei Pareichas. Doesn't say Pareichas HaKodesh, just Pareichas. Here we have a contrast. From the remaining of the blood, he puts on the corners of the Mizbeach, and the rest of the blood he pours on the foundation. All the fats are removed from it. It doesn't give the list now. There's no list there. Just all the fats. This is the pasuk that we were talking about yesterday, and you'll do to this bowl what we did to the other bowl. So instead of giving the list, it says Vasal apar kasher asal. It has this verse. Will be atonement. Then you take it outside and you burn it. Chatas hakolhu. Let's take a look now. So in the Brisa, what we did yesterday was we learned each word of this last pasuk that we had, kasher asal apar. Each word taught me another halacha. One taught me that if you're missing one of the avodas, then it's what you did was nothing. I would have only known that this is on the 7 that go on the parechas. How do you know even the 4 that go on the altar? So we have another verse for that. Kenyasa. The lapar tells me we're also including in this the part of Yom Kippur, etc., etc. Each word has another limud. And now, today we start Amar Mar. Amar Mar. We learned in the Brisa. Mar is the master that taught in the Brisa. Ein li ella matan sheva. I would only know from the pasuk that you have to sprinkle it 7 times on the parechas, and if you don't, shemakvis b'chol makom, because that's always ma'akiv. Eicha. Now the Gemara says, but the Brisa continued. How do you know the other 4 that go on the altar? 4 applications of blood that go on the inner altar. But now the Gemara stops and says, 1 second. You were telling me that you would only know about what's ma'akiv, what's essential is the 7 sprinklings that go on the parechas. Heicha, where is that you see that it goes on the parechas? Amarav Papa, the para ubenagarim. We have 7 times that it's sprinkled by the para aduma towards the parechas. It's sprinkled 7 times. You're on the other mountain, but you're sprinkling 7 times. And over there, I know that it's ma'akiv. How do I know that it's ma'akiv? Because over there it says chukah. Wherever it says chukah, we know that it's ma'akiv. And by the mitzayra as well, it says that zois tia teres mitzayra. He sprinkles with oil and towards the parechas, and it says that this is the law of the mitzayra. When it says tia, we have another limud that havaya. Anytime it says havaya tia, it should be that verb to be is means that it's ma'akiv. So what we just did now is we just got the source that sprinkling towards the parechas. We have other precedents of where that's ma'akiv. So now the Brisa continues. We're back in the Brisa. We're like going back and forth there. Matan arba minayin. How do you know that the 4 applications of blood on the 4 corners of the altar, that's going to be essential as well? And if you miss it, it will invalidate the carbon that we're talking about. Talmud Omer kein yaseh. So it should be done. So it should be done. That's coming to teach me that the 4 applications are also ma'akiv. Usually by a carbon chatas, we said only 1 application was ma'akiv. That's machlekes bisham and bisilul. But now we're saying because it was brought inside the sanctuary, all 4 are ma'akiv. Every application. Ma'ishna matan sheva the ksivan kfilan. Matan arbanami ksivan kfilan. What are you telling me? That the only way to know that the 4 applications of blood are going to be are essential, and if without it, it's invalidates the sacrifice because it says kein yaseh. But I already knew the 7. 1 second. How did you know the 7? The 7 sprinklings in front of the parechas, because it says it twice. It says va'asa kasher asa. I learned it from those words. You will do to this what you did to that, which means it says it twice. So 1 second. Matnar benamik siva. It says also that you should put the blood on the altar twice. And va'asa kasher asa would be including that as well. So why do we need a special pasuk of kein yaseh to say that if it says it twice, it's essential? To say that as if it doesn't say it twice, it's essential when it really says it twice. We're actually following Reb Shimon in this brisa, and that's why we need a special pasuk, because we have a machlekes here between Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. L'mayla omer keren, karnais, and which means shtayim. Give me a second, I'll explain. L'matu omer keren karnais, which also means shtayim. So that's a total of arba. Makes a total of 4. Different Reb Shimon. That's what Reb Shimon says. Reb Yehuda says, "Ein tzarech." You don't need that. So Reo Omer, because it says Ba'il Mayid. Al Kol Omer Ba'il Mayid. Anything that which is in the Ayil Mayid, which needs to be sprinkled, So that's would mean including the four corners of the mizbeach. If we take a look back at the pasuk, it says, in the first one, "V'nasan hakayin min adam al karnais mizbach ketayras." The kayin will place it on the corners of the mizbeach ketayras. What are the corners? He says, well, that's a plural. Minimal of plural is two. So on the two corners, there's four corners, but I only know two. Then it says, min adam yitin al karna. This is in the second sacrifice. In the first one that I just read to you was Har Kain Mashiach, the Kain Gadol that sins. Then the next one it says, in the Par Helam Davar, it says, Min Adam Yitin al Karnais HaMizbeach. Again, it says, and the blood you should place on the corners of the altar. How many corners? Two. Reb Shimon says, it says two there, it says two there. And I learned one from the other, that's a total of four. But did it ever repeat that it says twice you have to put on all four corners? It never repeated it. So if it never repeated it, how do I know that it's essential? I only know that things are essential when it's repeated. I don't know that it's ma'akiv. That if you don't do it, the whole sacrifice isn't valid. It was never repeated. I only got two from there and two from there. Total of four. I'm combining them together. I'm not repeating it. No, so therefore, I need another pasuk, which the Brisa says, Kein Yaseh, so you should do to teach me that it's essential as well. I need an extra verse. They ask him, why do you need the extra verse? If it says, Aba'asa kasher, you should do the same what you did there. It says, well, I didn't know what I was doing there. Over there, I only had two. Okay. What does Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda says, no. It says in front of Hashem, on the corners of the Mizbeach, it says, L'fnei Hashem asher ba'oil mayed. Once it says, which is in the tent of meeting, it's talking about all four corners. Rabbi Yehuda understands that that's obvious. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we really didn't need the drasha of Asa Kasher Asa. We'll have to see. We do require for it. That's what we're learning. We're asking, why do we need the extra limud? We should know it automatically. Saying that we wouldn't know it automatically because we have two and two, according to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you knew already four from the Par Kayin Mashiach. You get another four from which repeated by the Par Halam Davar. So why do you need Kein Yaseh? He needs it for another brisa. It's taught another brisa. It says, when it came to the Par of Yom Kippur, jumping to the Par of Yom Kippur, how are we doing this? Because the brisa said that when it says the word lapar, it's coming to teach me about the Par of Yom Kippur. So, okay, so we have in the drasha, it has the Par of Yom Kippur. Now it's saying that because by the Par of Yom Kippur, I don't know that you need smicha, and I don't know that you need to pour the remaining of the blood on the foundation of the outer altar. Minayin, how do you know that? So you should do, just like you do by these two sacrifices here, that you have to do smicha, by the Par Kayin Mashiach, and also by the Par Helam Davar, Kayin Gadol, and by the community sacrifice. So too, you have to do these two things by the Par of Yom Kippur. But asks, we didn't know smicha, that you have to lean on the animal. The Kayin Gadol would lean on the animal for Yom Kippur, for the bull of Yom Kippur. We didn't know that, and you have to pour the blood on the outer altar. Amrit lapar ze Yom Kippurim. We already said, if it says lapar, we already learned that it's Yom Kippur. Why do I need Kein Yaseh to tell me those other things? So the Gemara says Yitzchak. I need the extra pasuk of Kein Yaseh. Because I could have thought that when it says v'asa lapar kasher asa, that the par is coming to include Par of Yom Kippur. I could have thought that that's only coming to include hani mili avoda de ma'akva kapara. I could have only thought that that's referring to type of avoda, the type of service in the temple that's essential, which means that it would invalidate it without it. But those items, those procedures which are not essential, for example, leaning on the animal or spilling out the remainder of the blood, I would say that wasn't part of the comparison. Kamash Malon, it says Kenyasa, that even though it's not essential, but nevertheless you're supposed to do it. It didn't say it anywhere. I learned it from here from Kenyasa. Okay, very good. That's what Reb Yehuda would tell me I do with Kenyasa. And Reb Shimon needs Kenyasa anyway because he didn't have all four corners. He only had 2 and 2. Now the Gemara goes back to Reb Shimon. It says, Reb Shimon, Hai ba'ayil mayed ma'yavidlei. Reb Yehuda learns from Ayil Mayed that you have all four corners. But Reb Shimon that learns from 2 corners and 2 corners. Rashi says that Reb Shimon holds of Yesh Aim Lamikra. Apparently in the pasuk it doesn't say karnais with a vav. It says karnais without a vav. At least in Rashi's Sefer Torah. I have to see in the Tikkun. Over here in this Chumash it has karnais with a vav. Anyway, so let me see what the Shita Mikabetzis does here. Yeah, interesting. There's a Rashi, a different Girsa in Rashi, which he has. Yeah, I'm not sure if all versions of Rashi have that. Okay. There was a Tikkun here that would be interesting. We would check that out. Okay. The Tikkun Kairim is what the Balkaira uses to prepare because he wants it has the text of the font of the Sefer Torah. There's a Tikkun right after the Gemaras, the English Gemaras, that big tall book. Yeah. So we're looking at 4, 4, 4. But also the cipher uses a Tikkun. So right. Yeah. 7. Over here it says karnais with a vav. There goes that. Let's see the next one. It says over here, Samchel. All karnais. Oh, okay. The second one doesn't say karnais with the vav. By the par helam davar, it doesn't say karnais with the vav. That's what Rashi means. That Reb Shimon learns yesh aim le mikra, the way it's read. And so even though it doesn't say it with the vav, but you read it with the vav, that's good enough. Amazing. Okay. So we're holding Reb Shimon. What does Reb Shimon do with the term Ayil Mayed, which Rabbi Yehuda used to teach me for? It says Bayil Mayed mi Bayil Shim Nifchas Tikra Shel Heichal Masa. If the roof of the Heichal happened to fall in, so it wouldn't be called an Ayil Mayed. So at that moment, so then you wouldn't be allowed to sprinkle the blood. Then you have to wait till they repair the roof. So interesting halacha. So he says that because an aisle means a tent, it wouldn't be the tent of meeting if the roof fell in. So then you can't sprinkle the blood. Then you'd have to repair the roof right away to be able to get sprinkled the blood. V'idach, if that's what Reb Shimon does with Ayil Mayed, Rabbi Yehuda used Ayil Mayed to teach me for it. How does he know that halacha? So it says me asher. It says the word asher ba'Ayil Mayed. Okay. V'idach. So now according to Reb Shimon, that he learned it from Ayil Mayed, he doesn't need the word asher. What does he do with the word asher? He says, well, asher leidarish. The word asher, which means that, he doesn't dash. And he says that's typical for the pasuk to write. It's not considered extra. Okay. All of this was a discussion regarding the application of blood on the 4 corners. Abaya Amar. Abaya says, the Rabbi Yehuda, Nami Yitzchak. Abaya is going to give another answer. We said that it was according to Reb Shimon that we needed the limud of Kein Yaseh to teach me that the application of the blood on the 4 corners is essential. The Brisa was referring to Reb Shimon. It comes along Abaya and says it's also according to Rabbi Yehuda. Sal kadait chamina. Could have entered your mind to say, "Nidi dahavi asmicha shiari adam." I could have thought that just like by smicha and shiari adam, the leaning on the animal and the remaining of the blood which is poured on the outer altar, that even though it's written and it's said twice by both sacrifices, nevertheless, it's not essential. Maybe not everything. Other things are also not essential. The application of the blood also isn't essential. Mashmalan that it is essential. Commentary asks over here, maybe it should go the opposite way. Maybe we should say that smicha and shiari adam, by these special karbanos, leaning on the animal and the pouring the remainder of blood, should also be essential. Should take it the opposite way. We were taking it now. Let's say that since smicha and shiari adam, the leaning on it and the remainder of the blood isn't essential, maybe the application of the application on the four corners also isn't essential. So we say no, it's essential. So we say maybe let's go the other way. Let's say now that this is essential, maybe that should also be essential, the smicha, and should be invalidate the sacrifice without it. They say that we had a limud before that says v'nislach, that there's an atonement even without it. There's atonement without it means it's not essential. Okay, we're continuing in the Brisa. The Brisa says lapar. And lapar to the bull, you do to this what you did to the bull. What's the bull? The ze par Yom Kippurim. It's the par Yom Kippurim. We're going to make a comparison between the bull of Yom Kippur to the bull of the community sacrifice when they violated the halacha based on the Sanhedrin psak. But my hilchasa, what halacha are you looking for when you say that you're doing this comparison? Ila akiv, if you want to tell me that on Yom Kippur, if you miss one of the applications of the blood, so it's going to be invalidate the entire sacrifice. He says, 1 second. That's what you want to tell me. It's pshita. That's obvious. By Yom Kippur, it says chukah ksiv bey. It says the term chukah. So it says chukah. That means that we learned before by the paraduma. If you don't miss one of the sprinklings, so it invalidates. The word chukah tells me that everything in that paragraph, everything in that section, is essential. So you have to tell me that on Yom Kippur. What's the pasuk by Yom Kippur? It says chukah. It says v'haisa zayis lachem lechukas olam. This will be for you for everlasting statute. Yeah, I told you about we had a priest that was converting in the Besdin, and it was a colored person of color, and it was a lady, and she was a priest, and we said, "What made you want to convert?" So she said that she read the Bible, and it says over there that the holidays are an everlasting ordinance, and she said, "And God doesn't lie." And the church doesn't keep it. It doesn't keep it. There's chukas olam. It says it's an everlasting statute. And how do they switch it if it says it's everlasting? Okay, so we learned from chukah. We learned from the term chukah that it's essential. And if you miss anything in that paragraph where it says the word chukah, so it invalidates it if it's missing. So why do we need the limud of lapar to teach me something that I know already? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says le'nitzchel Rabbi Yehuda. We need this for Rabbi Yehuda. Damar kiksiv chukah advarim anasim big day lavim b'fnim. He holds that the term chukah that was said in the paragraph, the passage of Yom Kippur, was only talking about the applications of the blood that was done in the kodesh hakadashim, in the white garments. Shem hikdim ma'aseh lachaveirei. That if you did one thing before the other thing, there were several things that were done there. I think the order was first the ketores. See, first was the ketores, then there was a sprinkling of the blood of the bull, then there was a sprinkling of the blood of the goat. And if you did any of those out of order, that's layasav aleiklum. Then what you did was nothing. So Rabbi Yehuda learns that what goes inside the term chukah was telling me the order of what's brought into not just the sanctuary, but into the kodesh hakadashim. But the things that were done with the white garments outside, for example, sprinkling the blood and of the bull or of the goat on the pareiches, which is in the sanctuary, not the Kodesh HaKadoshim, but just in the sanctuary. If you did it out of order, it's fine. So therefore, it tells me that okay, that's what he holds. So 1 second. If the order doesn't matter, things that were in the sanctuary, so maybe maybe the sprinkling of the blood also. If you missed one, it doesn't matter. If the order doesn't matter, then maybe it doesn't matter if you missed one. Kamash Malan comes to teach me the word lapar, to tell me that no, it is makiv. Maskiv lo Rav Papa. Rav Papa asks to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. It says, can you say that what we're talking about here is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that possibly applications of blood on Yom Kippur won't be essential, but we have a brayso that says, he will conclude from atoning of the holies. Shem Kippur, that means if he did everything, then Kila, then he's concluded, even if he didn't pour out the remainder. Then like Kippur, if he didn't do everything, then like Kila, then he's not concluded. The Rabbi Kiva, that's what Rabbi Kiva says. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Nemar im Kila Kippur, v'im like Kila like Kippur. Rabbi Kiva says, Im Kippur, Kila. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it should be Kila, Kippur. Rabbi Yehuda is adding in the opposite, that not only the Kippur means atonement. Atonement means that you put the applications of the blood on the right places. Then you're concluded. Rabbi Yehuda says, I need more than just putting the blood on the right places. I need pouring the remainder of the blood outside as well. So he says that im kila, if you concluded, which means you pour the remainder out onto the foundation, then keeper, then you get an atonement. Im like kila, if you didn't pour the remainder of the blood out, then like keeper. He holds that even the shirayim, even the remainder of the blood is ma'akiv. If that's the case, then according to Rabbi Yehuda, everything on Yom Kippur is ma'akiv. So what do you need to tell me? He holds that even the pouring of the blood outside, yeah. It's a chiddush, right? We didn't have that before. Doesn't fit with what we learned before, because before we said that why do we need kenyasa? Because I could have thought that smicha and shiori adam is not ma'akiv. Not by Yom Kippur. By the other sacrifices, smicha and shiori adam was not ma'akiv. Now, by saying by Yom Kippur, smicha, not the smicha, but shiori adam is ma'akiv. So why do we need the pasuk according to of Lapar, according to Rabbi Yehuda, thinking that maybe something over there wouldn't be ma'akiv, when according to Rabbi Yehuda, Yom Kippur is different. Yom Kippur, everything is ma'akiv. Amar Rav Papa leinitzcha ella le'es dam ubetfila. Special halachas from these three words. Pasuk says. Says v'tovel hakainas etzbay badam. This is by the Parkain Mashiach, and from that pasuk we learn three halachas, and we compare the Parkain Mashiach to Yom Kippur. Let's see. The Gemara is going to go through it now. S, when it says the word S, Amar Rav Bar Yaakov leinitzcha ella lahachsher. It says that he should dip his finger. That the kain will dip his finger. Es etzbay, his finger. It's coming to say that it's kosher. Amin shebe etzba. Amin apparently is a what is it? A wart? A blister. If he has a blister on his finger, and he dips his finger into the blood to sprinkle, so we say that that's not considered a chatzitza. It's still considered acceptable, even though it's not directly his finger. It's a blister on his finger, but nevertheless, that's good enough. So the word S, a lot of times in the Torah, the word S is coming to include something. I think the reason is because the word S, besides that it's an extra word, but it also could mean with. Es ha'alikim esalach nayach, right? With Hashem, Nayach walked. The word Es means with. So Rashi says about Es. What did it say about Hashem was Vayimach Eskol when it says that they destroyed the flood, destroyed the land. So Rashi says, it destroyed. It says Es. It's coming to include the 3 tefachim of the topsoil as well that got destroyed in the flood. So Es means with. It's always coming to include something. Even when it says Es HaShamayim, it's coming to say not only the heavens, but also everything that's in the heavens, right? All the hosts of heaven as well. Es Haaretz means everything that's in there, coming to include something. So when it says Es, Etzbai, it's coming to include also if there's a blister on his finger, that's also included. Then it says the word Badam. Sheyehei Badam Shir Tefillah. That's coming to teach me that there needs to be Mikara. That you need to have in the original receiving of the blood, you need to have enough, you have received enough blood that you should be able to dip your finger into it. V'taval, when it says the word v'taval, it's coming to tell me v'loi mesapik. Mesapik, I think, means to wipe. He has to dip his finger, not wipe his finger along the side. Is that how they translate mesapik? So we learned 3 halachos over here from the Par Kayin HaMashiach, and we're learning this over to Yom Kippur, and we're explaining, according to Rav Papa, that why did I need to learn from to Yom Kippur? Because these specifically these 3 halachas. And it's necessary to learn these halachas for Yom Kippur from the Par Kayin HaMashiach. V'yitzrich l'michtav badam. It needs to say the word badam. Dikas rachman avetavel, because if the Eibishter would have only told us that he has to dip it, it could have thought even if he doesn't have the amount originally in order to dip his finger, but if later on he has the amount, that's good enough. Because Rahman Badam, it says in the blood, that means that he needs to receive the amount of blood in the keli originally. Because Rahmana Badam, if it would only said the blood, okay, so I know I need the right amount. But Hava Amina Filo Mesapik. I could have thought that even if he just wipes his finger along the side to get some blood on it, that would be enough. He maybe doesn't have to immerse his finger, dip the finger. Because Rahman Avitavos says that he has to dip it. So these halachas we're learning from the pasuk by the Par Kayin HaMashiach. We're learning it over to Yom Kippur. Okay, now we go back to discuss what Rabbi Yehuda told us about that. Ma'ayel Mayed teaches me that you need to have application of the blood on all 4 corners. It says, Mizbach Keteiras Samim Lamali. When the pasuk says, Ba'ayel Mayed, B'nasan HaKayin Min Adam Al Kanasim is Mizbach Keteiras Samim Lefnei Hashem Asher Ba'ayel Mayed. Why does it have to say Mizbach Keteiras Samim? Why does it have to say that? So the Gemara answers, Shimlei Neschanech Mizbeach Keteiras Samim Lo Yamazeh. That if he doesn't have, if the Mizbeach was never used yet, if you had a brand new Mizbeach and it's Yom Kippur, and you wanted to put the application of the blood, it's not going to work. It needs to be the Mizbeach of the Keteiras Samim has to have been used once, inaugurated with the Keteiras. So Shimlei Neschanech Mizbeach Keteiras Samim Lo Yamazeh. Okay. Tani Kavaseder Rav Papa. We have a support for Rav Papa, which Rav Papa told us before. We have a support of Brisa. Papa told us that the limud for Yom Kippur is for 3 halachas, even if there's a wart, and even if there's that there needs to be enough blood originally in the keli, and that he can't wipe it, he has to immerse his finger for the dipping. So the Brisa says like this: it says v'asa kasher asa. Now, really, what the pasuk says, you should do to the bull what you did to the parachatas. We said to the bull was referring to the bull of Yom Kippur. Okay, that's what we added in. Why does it have to say Lapar? Why does it have to say Lapar? We're talking about the bull. We're talking about the Par Helam Davar, the community sins. They bring a bull. It says no. The rabbis Par Yom Kippur We're coming to include even the bull of Yom Kippur, to also the same halachas, which we said according to our Papa were 3 halachas. Divrei Rebbe. That's the words of Rabbi. Rabbi Shmuel says you don't need to do this because kal v'chaymer. You actually have a kal v'chaymer. When it came where the carbon was not the same as another carbon, nevertheless the services were the same. Makom shish v'carbon l'carbon, where the carbonas are the same. So for sure, then the services should be the same. Which means that if I have a kal v'chaymer, we'll see in a second what he's referring to. The Gemara is going to elaborate. So according to Rabbi Shmuel, why does it have to say lapar? It says zepar helem davar shel tzibur. And then it says lapar again, zepar kain Mashiach. So he doesn't learn that lapar is telling me anything extra. Lapar is telling me, according to him, exactly what the pasuk is talking about. The Gemara will explain both of them. Now the Gemara goes back to explain what we were talking about, that the kal v'chaymer, I have a kal v'chaymer that Yom Kippur should be the same like the par. We'll see in a second. Amar Mar, we learned in the Brisa. When the carbonas are not the same, but nevertheless the services were the same. What do you mean? What are you talking about? That the carbon wasn't equal to the other carbon. Maybe you want to say par Yom Kippurim v'sar Yom Kippurim. Maybe you wanted to say that the same service, what you do to the goat, to the bull of Yom Kippur, you also have to do to the goat of Yom Kippur, even though it's a different animal. Lehushvu carbon lekarbon. Nevertheless, the services are the same. So for sure, we'll learn from that the par Kayana Mashiach is the same as going to be the par of Yom Kippur. The bull of the high priest is going to be the same as the bull, because the carbonas are the same. If the carbonas are not the same, you have to do the same service. For sure, when the carbonas are Ikalam Nifra. So 1 second. Malahanach, when it came to the bull and the goat of Yom Kippur, which we said they're the same, but it's a different story. That's not going to tell me that the par helam davar, that the par kain Mashiach is going to be the same as the bull of Yom Kippur. That didn't go into the sanctuary. That went into the sanctuary, yes, but it didn't go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So it's very different. But by the par Kain Mashiach, when the Kain Gadol does a sin, you only bring it into the sanctuary. But the bull of Yom Kippur, you bring it into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, so it's not the same. So maybe the other services would be different as well. Ella, rather, it can't be the 2 bulls of Yom Kippur, which we're talking about. Ella, rather, we must be talking about we have 2 sacrifices that are very similar, but they're different animals. That means if the Kohen Gadol does an Aveira, you bring a bull. I'm sorry, not the Kohen Gadol. That means if the community does an Aveira, because the Sanhedrin paskin something, the majority of the community sinned, so you bring a bull. And Sir Avodas Kachavim is when the community does an Aveira with Avodah Zarah, also based on a mistake in the Sanhedrin. You bring, instead of a bull, you bring a goat. So if that's the case, Ikalam Malahanach, those 2, Shekem Mechapern al Averis Mitzvah Yedua. Both of those sins, whether it's the Par Helam Davar, community sinned about something that's Chayiv Karas, or the community sinned about Avodah Zarah, the Sanhedrin said that doing this service is not considered Avodah Zarah. And it turns out that they made a mistake, and you have to bring a special sacrifice. If that's the case, those two karbanas are brought for a very specific Aveira, which the person knew that he did the Aveira, even afterwards he knew. Okay. However, by Yom Kippur, it's not like that. By Yom Kippur, the atonement of Yom Kippur is for sins that he didn't know afterwards. We have to say, what we're talking about is that the community bull that we bring for when there's when the Sanhedrin paskin and the majority of the community sin, and the goat of Yom Kippur, those have the same halacha. This is what it means. If when you have different sacrifices, one is a par and one is a bull and a goat, and nevertheless, the high par, the high sar, this one is a bull and this one is a goat. Nevertheless, nevertheless, the halachas are the same. What was said about them, knows both of them you need to sprinkle on the brachas. Both of them you have to sprinkle on the corners of the altar. and both of them use your finger. Okay. Makim shishvu carbon the carbon. So if the sacrifice is the same, not the bull and a goat, rather they're both par, both a bull. The high par, high par. This is a bull and this is a bull. Einai didn't shush for myself. For sure, it should be the same. So therefore, I don't need the pasuk of what was Rabbi Shmuel saying. I don't need the pasuk of lapar to teach me Yom Kippur because I know anyways that the law of Yom Kippur is the bull of Yom Kippur is the same. So the ba'asa lepar Yom Kippurim le'es b'dam u'b'tfila mipar kaina Mashiach. I would know it from just the Kal V'chaimer without the word lapar. Okay. So what did we do here? Okay, so far so good. Now the Gemara says, the same way that you got the par from the par based on a Kal V'chaimer, that if the halachas by a par is the same as a soyer, right? So then I would say the same with the par, and a par for sure is the same. So then the soyer and the soyer is also the same. Also the Kal V'chaimer. And what am I learning from that Kal V'chaimer? But the application of the blood, all of that is going to be essential. The Gemara asks, "V'chidavar alamed behekish, chayzer malamed b'kal v'chaimer." You see, the problem is, what exactly are we learning? We're learning that the blister on the finger, the dipping of the blood, dipping of the finger into the blood, and the amount of blood that needs to be in the vessel. We learned that from what it said by the Parkain Mashiach. It didn't say that by the Sarah of Avedis Kacham, but we learned it to there from a Hekesh. We did a comparison. We're asking that if something that was learned to the Sarah of Avedis Kacham with a Hekesh, with a comparison, you now can take what's learned from a comparison, you can make a Kal V'chaimer to learn it to a third thing. How do you know that it goes from one level, it can keep getting learned, passed on to other things based on different limudim? I know from the original I can make a Kal V'chaimer, but this is not the original. This is an extension based on a hekesh. Amar Rav Papa, Kasav Tana Debei Rabbi Yishmael, Davar Lam Behekesh Chayzim Lamed BeKal V'chaimer. We hold that a Kal V'chaimer is so strong, or maybe the hekesh is so strong, that even though it's a comparison, but nevertheless, I can still make a Kal V'chaimer on what was compared to the original and from the extension. Okay. We're going to have a few blocks of Gemara that's going to be discussing something that's learned from something else. Can you then go and learn from that in different ways? Hekesh, K'ser Shava, the Gemara is going to go through this. If I remember correctly from 7 years ago. Okay. Lapar, we said Lapar.
It definitely teaches you to have patience.
Yeah.
That if you could learn a Kal V'chaimer from something that doesn't match, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah. Not from the original. So the Bryce is going on now. We were talking about the Bryce that had a Machlekes Rebbe and Rabbi Yishmael. And it goes on. Sorry? Right. This is a Chiddush. Lapar, when it says Lapar, Zepar Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. That was Rabbi Yishmael that was talking about when it says Lapar, it's not coming to teach me Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur I have a Kal V'chaimer for us. Lapar just meant Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur, the community sacrifice. So it's B'tzibur Gufei Ksiv. We're talking about the Tzibur. What do you mean Lapar? That's what the whole pasuk is talking about, the Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. So he says, it says Laparo, it's coming to include the Par Halam Davar. What do you mean? That's what we're talking about. Gemara answers, Amar Rav Papa, Mishum Deboy Agmurei, Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur, Yiseres V'shtei Kloyas L'sir Avedis Kechavim. What I'm doing here is I wanted to learn that, you see, you remember the list of the fats that are burnt on the altar, was said by the Par Kayin Mashiach, when the Kayin Gadol sins. It didn't say it when the community sinned. We said, Vasala Par Kasher Asa, you did it to this. Now, so the Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur doesn't have the list. But since what I want to do is I want to take from the Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur, and I want to extend it over to the Sar of Avedis Kechavim, and I can't do that because it doesn't have the list there. I don't have the diaphragm and the kidneys and all of that. So what I need to do is I need to learn it with the Hekesh. So Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur Begufei like Ksiv, it doesn't say it there originally. It's only Be'keshasi. I learn it from a Hekesh. So Itzrich Lapar Lemehebe Command Ksiv Begufei. I need the word Lapar to make it as if it says it clearly there. Because I'm going to do a hekesh. You see, Rabbi Shmuel only holds that you can learn from a kal v'chomer something that was learned already previously by hekesh. But it doesn't say you can do a hekesh on a hekesh. So I have to make it as if it was said originally. How do you make it like it said originally? Because I take the word lapar and to teach me that that's what it's talking about. That we're going to learn later that even though in the rest of the Torah we can learn something that was learned out, extend it to something else, but by Kachim we can't. What we're doing over here is that it's interesting because now it really didn't say it by the Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. But I'm saying because I'm doing like a double hekesh, that double connection, I'm saying lapar means Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. That double connection back to the Par Kayin Mashiach makes it as if it's written in it itself, and then therefore a regular hekesh I can't learn this to another hekesh. But here it's like a double hekesh in the original. So a double bond. So then I can learn from that. Tani Kavaseder Rav Papa. The Bryce that supports Rav Papa, it says Va'asa Kasher Asa. Back Rav Papa taught. What did Rav Papa teach before? Va'asa Kasher Asa is teaching me. Dam Tfila, S Dam and Tfila. It says Vasa Kasher Asa. It says that you will do to this what you do to that. We do to this bull what you did to the Par Kayin Mashiach. Matam Aleimer. Why does it have to say this? Why does it Matam Aleimer Lapar? Why does it say the word Lapar? If that's what we're talking about. Because it says they will bring their sacrifice as a fire to Hashem. Chatasam. What does it mean? Their sacrifice. Elu Sira Avedis Kechavim. It's referring to the goats of that were brought for worshiping idols by mistake. Shigagasam, it continues on. It says they are for their unintentional sins. That's what it's coming to teach us. By the way, where's this pasuk? This is talking. This is in. This is talking. Is this in Parshas Kairach? Talking about what the Kayanim are going to do. Yeah. After the conflict, but the Kairach, I think the Torah goes through the job of the Kayan and what he's going to get. It like repeats like all the things that a Kayan will do. It says he's going to bring their sacrifices to Hashem for the sins that they did on in their unintentional sins. That's referring to Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. Chatasam al shigagasam amra Torah. The Torah says amra Torah chatasam. The Torah says their sins. Hareihi l'cha kishigasam. That's similar to their unintentional sins. What is their sin? That we said that's referring to the goat of Avodah Zarah. What is their unintentional sins? That's talking about the Par Halam Davar Shel Tzibur. So v'chi davar shigagasam atzma mihechel lamdas. Where did they learn the unintentional itself? That's referring to the Par Halam Davar. Where did you learn that? It says Leibe Akesha. Was it not learned with a comparison to the Par Kayin Mashiach? And then it says, okay, it's coming to teach me that Lapar, as if it said it there clearly, not that it was learned with a Hekesh, with a comparison. Then it says Lapar, when it says the second Lapar, Zepar Kayin Mashiach. That's referring to the original one that was teaching it to me, which is the part of the Kayin Mashiach. If you don't mind, I just want to finish to the next one more piece. Amar Mar, so we don't have to go over anything. Amar Mar, we learned in the Brisa Chatasam when it says their sins that they'll bring the karban, the Kainim will bring the people's karban as a fire to Hashem for their sins. In their sins, what does it mean in their sins? Elusir Avedis Kechavim. The Brisa said it's referring to the goat of Avodah Zarah. Tepeklei Mikra Kama. Why don't we just say that we can learn it from the original pasuk, Damar Mar, because the master taught Achatas l'Rabbi Siri Avedis Kechavim. Pasuk says that when it says the sin offering, it's referring to the goat of Avodah Zarah. Why do we need an extra pasuk Chatasam to teach me that it's the goat of Avodah Zarah? Amar Rav Papa Itzrich. Papa says we need both. If it would only say the word Chatas, so Salkadait Chamina, I would have thought that there is a comparison between the goat of Avodah Zarah to the Par Helam Davar. However, Hanimili Hazais Tiksivim Begufei. I would only think that that's the applications of blood that was said clearly by the Par Helam Davar. But I wouldn't have known the burning of the fats, which doesn't say clearly by the Par Helam Davar. I had to learn that from the Par Kain Mashiach. Avol Yeseres Ushtei Akloyes. But the diaphragm and the two kidneys, the Tiksivim Begufei, which it doesn't say by the Par Helam Davar, I would say that it's not compared to the Sa'ir of Avodah Zarah. So Kamash Malan comes to teach me that it's written also by the Par, by the Chatasam is teaching me to compare that as well, even though it wasn't said clearly by the Par Helm Davar. Okay. Let's leave it over here. Should I leave it here? Do I have another 2 minutes? Another 2 minutes, I'll go.
You have another minute.
You have.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Not going anywhere either.
Let's go a drop further. We're a little behind. Now, the Gemara says that Rav Papa said that the comparison from Yom Kippur to the Par Helm Davar was these 3 halachas of the blister on the finger and the wiping of the blood. That needs to be dipped, not wiped. And also, you need enough blood in the keli. Amalei Rav Huna Breder Rav Nasan Rav Papa. Rav Huna Breder Rav Nasan is Rav Papa's friend. He says to Rav Papa, they're both students of Abaye and Rabbah. He says, V'hatana, this brisa that says that the word lapar is coming to teach me par yaim akipurim l'chol mashamar be'inyan kamar. It's coming to tell me everything about the par helam davar. It's much more than that. When you're telling me that it's only teaching me 3 halachas, it's coming to tell me all the halachas. So the Gemara answers Tanayi, Tana de Beirav mi Rabbi Hachi Marabi Hachi. The Tana de Beirav learns it like this, that it's only these 3 halachas. Tana de Beirav Shmuel lei Marbi Hachi. And Tana de Beirav Shmuel doesn't learn it like this. He learns that it's actually coming to tell me that all of the applications of blood are going to be the same. That they're going to be what was the word we used? Going to be essential. Tana de Beirav Shmuel. Thought in the Brisa of Bishmal, Pneima Nemer Yiseres or stay close, Parkin Mashiach, Nemer Parlam Davar Shel Tzibur. Why actually did it do that? Why did it say the list of the fats that are going to be burnt, including the diaphragm and the kidneys, only by the Kohen Gadol? It didn't say it by the Par Helam Davar, by the community sin. There was a king that got angry at his friend, but when it came to talking about how bad his friend is, he didn't speak so much because he still loved his friend, so he spoke less. So when it came to the Jewish people, he didn't want to elaborate. When it came to the Jewish people, that sin, he didn't want to elaborate. Yeah. Because of his love. Now, we have another teaching of the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. Why does it say Parechas HaKodesh? We started off today. By the first halacha, it says you sprinkle it against the Parechas HaKodesh, opposite the Parechas HaKodesh. In the second halacha, by the Param Davar Sibur, it doesn't say Kodesh. It says Mashal Melech Basar Dam Shesarach Lav Medina. There's an example of a king where the people are like rebelling against him. If just a few people rebelled, then he still has his close counsel is still there. Ruba Sarcha, But if the majority rebelled, then he loses even what's close to him, even the close counsel gets lost. So therefore, when the majority sinned, it already doesn't say Preichas HaKodesh. Only if the Kohen Gadol sinned, it can still say Preichas HaKodesh, as if the Kedusha is left when the majority sinned. Okay. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go.
Rabbi Smith.